But I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord, because you are called an outcast, Zion for whom no one cares. Jeremiah 30 verse 17. From the beginning of time, I have observed every step of your lineage. Nothing has escaped my sight, not the victories nor the fractures, not the sincere embraces nor the abandonments that left scars. I saw the hidden tears in previous generations, the voices that went silent without finding an answer, and the dreams that seemed to crumble before blossoming. Yet today I raise my voice with power to declare that the calling upon your family has not been lost. The plan I designed remains intact and shines brighter than the shadows of the past. The destiny of your house will not be defined by the wound you received, but by the restoration I am bringing forth. The generations that have passed were not beyond my reach, and those yet to come will not be marked by chains of pain. I have come to interrupt the story written by brokenness and to lift a glorious narrative over your lineage. This is the day I release upon your family the anointing that transforms ruins into firm foundations. Many declared that your family story was broken. They spoke of curses, of bonds no one could break. But my voice crosses centuries and cuts those words like a flaming sword. What seemed a perpetual sentence now collapses. I lift up your surname, cover it with honor, and clothe it with glory. Your name and your descendants will be written on pages of victory because what I begin cannot be canceled by any opposing force. You will walk under a seal of renewal. I will not allow the wounds of your ancestors to dictate your steps or those of your children. The inheritance I give is not measured in passing riches but in abundant life, in peace, in strength that does not fade. The lineage that seemed extinguished will be ignited like a torch in the midst of darkness. There will be reconciliation where there was separation, forgiveness where there was resentment, and joy where there was mourning. I have seen the cracks in your family tree, and today I pour balm over those fractures. Where there were absent fathers, I pour out eternal paternal love. Where there were lost children, I plant a new path that draws them toward life. Where entire generations were trapped in vices and chains, I open pathways of freedom. No negative mark will remain as an identity over your house. Remember, what one generation left unfinished, another will complete under my direction. What was taken away in the past, I multiply in the future. Every tear shed in secret by those who cried out before you becomes fertile seed that now sprouts. Their prayers did not fall into the void. They were waiting for this moment of fulfillment. Now the answer springs forth, now the fruit is born. I place my hand upon the root of your lineage. The enemy tried to dry it up, but I water it with rivers of life. From that renewed root will grow a strong trunk and branches that extend beyond what you imagine. Your descendants will be like arrows in steady hands, projected toward destinies that will bring honor to your surname. No one will be able to say your house is cursed, for it will be evident that my blessing rests upon it. The chains of fear and shame passed from parents to children are being broken. The stigma that seemed to repeat itself is cut off at this very moment. I declare a new code over your lineage: faith instead of unbelief, healing instead of sickness, unity instead of division, hope instead of despair. My decrees are eternal, and when I speak, creation itself aligns to fulfill my will. I look at the places where the past shouted defeated you. In those very places I will establish monuments of victory. Where curses were spoken, there I will build altars of worship. Where violence tore homes apart, there I will plant unshakable peace. Where voices said your generation was lost, there I will raise leaders who will shine like beacons among the crowds. Your lineage will be a living testimony that nothing is impossible when I decide to restore. I gather the broken memories and transform them into teaching. I will not allow pain to remain as a scar that enslaves. It will be evidence that my hand was present in every stage. The family story that seemed a burden will become a banner of hope for others. Many will come to you asking how so much transformation was possible, and then you will say it was my voice, my power, and my faithfulness that changed the course of everything. I declare over you a generational calling. It is not just for you, it is for your children and your children's children. Your surname will be marked as an example of restoration. What was once shame will become a reason for honor. What seemed inherited darkness will be a testimony of transmitted light. I raise your lineage with a prophetic purpose, to be a bridge of blessing for other families still waiting for their miracle. The pain you received in childhood will not determine your adulthood. The abandonment that struck your ancestors will not be your destiny. Divorce, betrayal, poverty, sickness passed from generation to generation will not have the final word. Today I proclaim an end to that cycle. Today I begin a path of fullness and freedom. Your steps will be firm in promises no one can invalidate. Do not look at the past as a chain anymore. See it as the ground where I will raise a glorious testimony. What seemed ruins will become a solid foundation. What others despised will be lifted up as a pillar of example. I take every rubble and turn it into material to build something new and majestic. There is no scar I cannot use, no pain I cannot redeem. Prepare your heart, for I am writing a new story. It is not a repetition of yesterday, it is an unprecedented chapter full of glory. Your lineage will be known as a family of restorers, as an inheritance that brings life where others only saw death. In your future generations there will be courage, faith, and love that breaks barriers. It will not be coincidence. It will be the fulfillment of the calling I declare today. Nothing and no one will be able to take this promise away. I watch over every word I speak, and none will return empty. Do not fear the resistance that tries to rise. It will crumble like dust at my breath. The enemy wanted to mark your surname with failure, but now your name will be inscribed in the records of my victory. I summon your past, present, and future generations under my mantle. I declare a before and after over your house. The time of darkness has ended. The dawn has arrived. What seemed lost is reborn with strength. What seemed extinguished shines again. My glory will cover your lineage like an unstoppable river. Hear this certainty. Your house is called to be a sign that I restore the impossible. Your lineage will be a living message that my faithfulness never fails. Today this word is sealed over your family: victory, restoration, and fullness. This is the eternal calling I place upon your lineage, and no force can annul it. Your house belongs to me. Your surname will be a light among nations. Your descendants will run free, not under chains of pain but under wings of hope. I have decreed a new time, and my decree is irrevocable. Your lineage will live in fullness because I have called it, chosen it, and restored it forever. They will take root downward and bear fruit upward. Isaiah 37 verse 31. I have observed the heart of your lineage as one who contemplates an ancient tree. Its branches rose seeking the sun, but at times the roots encountered dryness, with stones that prevented them from growing freely. There were storms that tore the trunk, winds that stripped away many leaves, and seasons when it seemed everything was fading. Yet today I declare with strength, I restore the roots of your family and make them drink again from living waters. What was hidden underground, what no one could see, I now touch with transforming power. The roots are the essence of every tree, and in your lineage the roots were wounded by betrayals, by injustices, by forgetfulness that marked generations. But I will not allow those roots to continue transmitting bitterness or pain. I place my hand upon them, remove the rot, and plant purity, love, honor, and life. I declare that what is hidden in the depths receives my healing. Your family will no longer draw from muddy waters but from an eternal spring that never runs dry. I lift my voice over your story and proclaim that what was buried will not remain lost. Roots that seemed dry begin to turn green. Where it seemed impossible to bloom, I begin to bring forth abundant life. The tree of your house will not fall, for I am establishing it with indestructible foundations. Everything that dragged you to the past becomes now a foundation for a glorious future. The unresolved pains of previous generations hidden underground are now exposed to my light. What was hidden can no longer remain in darkness. Today I bring to the surface what hindered and destroy it with my purifying fire. The roots of sadness and violence that were planted will have no more power. In their place, I plant roots of hope and joy that will extend deeply. Restoring the roots means healing what no one sees. They are memories transmitted in silence, inherited wounds never spoken of, family secrets that left shadows. Today I enter that hidden soil and transform its composition. What was full of poison becomes fertile ground. What seemed unable to sustain life will now be a field prepared for abundant harvest. Your lineage will not be defined by bitter roots. I declare that the trunk of your family stands in the purity of my presence. Your branches will grow strong and your fruits will be sweet. No one will be able to deny the change, because what once produced pain will now give nourishment and blessing. The restoration I begin in the depths will manifest in the visible, and everyone who looks at your house will see the work of my hand. I cross the centuries with my voice and meet every broken root. No lost time can stop me. The wound of an ancestor is not stronger than my healing. The cry that was never heard now receives an answer. The silence of those who suffered in past generations becomes a song of restoration. I am making bloom what seemed condemned to remain barren. I declare that the roots of your lineage will drink from the river that flows from my throne. There will be no more dryness. There will be no more dependence on contaminated waters. Today I release a stream of purity that soaks every root. What once transmitted brokenness will now transmit strength. What once generated division will now be a channel of unity. The tree of your house rises with new vitality because I have touched the depths. The words of defeat once sown as seeds in the soil of your family are undone now. I myself uproot them and cast them away. In their place, I plant incorruptible seeds that will bring fruits of righteousness, peace, and honor. I declare that every branch of your family will experience this transformation. Your generations will not wither but grow with vigor, for what will sustain their life will be my inexhaustible source. The repeated mistakes of your ancestors will no longer be transmitted. The hidden patterns that repeated in each generation are broken. Where there was abandonment, I declare companionship. Where there was misery, I establish abundance. Where there was shame, I give honor. Where there was loss, I release multiplication. The root of curse is cut off and replaced by a root of eternal blessing. See how I strengthen the soil where your roots are. What was once hard and infertile ground now becomes fertile soil prepared by my hands. There will grow a robust tree that will not fall before storms. Your generations will be like a lush forest, full of life and diversity, where each branch will testify that I was the one who restored the depths. I will not allow the enemy to feed any longer on the roots of your family. He had tried to corrode them, had wanted to dry them up, but total failure will be his result. I have decreed restoration, and when I decree, nothing and no one can reverse it. I declare a new cycle that begins from the deepest place. What seemed irreparable now receives life. The roots of your lineage will be an example for others. Many will come and say, "How is it possible that a tree that seemed to die is now full of life?" Then testimony will be given of my power. The change will be visible in the fruits, but the miracle will have happened in the hidden place, in those roots now being touched. I also declare that your children and your children's children will be like branches planted beside safe waters. They will never be dry. They will never be left without sustenance. Though winds and droughts come, the tree will stand because what sustains it has been restored. The roots of your family will be firmly planted in soil that does not crack. I will heal the oldest memories of your lineage. Where there were harmful covenants, I undo them. Where oaths of pain were raised, I tear them down. In their place, I establish eternal promises of good. Every root reconciles with my original design. Nothing will be left out of this restoration. I declare fullness over what is most hidden, over what seemed unreachable. What I begin today will extend through time. It will not be a passing fruit, it will be a permanent inheritance. The tree of your house will be remembered as a source of life for many. The roots I restore will be an eternal testimony that nothing is too hidden for my hand. Everything that seemed dead comes to life. Everything that seemed rotten becomes a source of health. I proclaim that the spring that waters your roots will never stop. It will not be the work of your strength, it will be the work of my faithfulness. Therefore, your lineage will flourish in seasons when others cannot. There will be greenness in the desert. There will be fruit when others experience barrenness. It will be clear that your roots are connected to my inexhaustible provision. This is the time when I declare generational healing from the deepest place. You will no longer have to carry the sick roots of your ancestors. I cleanse the soil, strengthen the base, and prepare your family for unlimited growth. Your descendants will not inherit brokenness, they will inherit fullness. Just as a tree with firm roots resists storms, so your lineage will withstand any trial. It will not break, it will not fade, because the roots have been restored. From this healing will flow a future of honor. The fruits that come will be evidence that I was working in what no one saw. I declare victory over your family. I declare restoration over what is hidden. I declare fullness over every root. The tree of your lineage is established in my power, and it will never wither again. I restore the roots, and I do it completely so that nothing can steal what I give today. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will take the heart of stone out of your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. Ezekiel 36 verse 26. I have decided to visit the memories of your family heritage, because I know that there remain marks, wounds and silences that have tried to rise as walls between who you are and what I intended your generations to be. I enter into the depths where words do not reach, where memories that have hurt for decades are hidden. Today I declare that my power descends upon your story, not only to touch the present, but to rescue what seemed lost in the past. Every thought that remained tied to the shame of mistakes passed down, every scar of offenses inherited from parents to children, today is touched by my hand. I release the weight of memory that became a chain, and I turn it into a testimony of redemption. The past will no longer govern the course of your descendants, because I am writing a completely renewed narrative. The memories of abandonment, of broken promises, of absences that left cracks, will have no power in your family's present. I heal the memory that recorded curses, betrayals, and pacts of darkness. I remove them from the root so that your mind and the minds of your loved ones no longer hold traces that produce pain, but signs of my victory. Your family tree has kept stories of hidden tears, of secrets that were never spoken, but that produced chains in those who came after. Today I open those silent pages and fill them with my glory. Where there was fear, I place courage. Where there was silence, I place proclamation of faith. Where there was confusion, I establish clarity. I enter the memories of your house, of your ancestors, and I decree that none of those traces of pain will be transferred to those not yet born. What seemed to condemn you to repeat the same mistakes is now interrupted by my glorious intervention. The river of pain stops, and in its place springs a fountain of hope. I declare that the voices of accusation that constantly recalled the wrong that happened in your history are silenced by my authority. Every memory that was used as a weapon against your identity is transformed into a stone of victory. It will no longer be the past speaking the loudest, but my word establishing restoration. I have seen how each generation tried to hide shames, but there is no shadow that can remain hidden from my light. I do not expose to destroy, but to heal. That is why what comes to the light of my hands ceases to be ruin and becomes a new foundation. Today I release restored memories, memories free from pain, memories bathed in grace. The tears shed in secret were not forgotten. Each one was counted, and now I gather them to transform them into fruit of joy. What was weeping passed down from generation to generation will be replaced by laughter, by songs of victory, by memories that strengthen faith instead of breaking it. I write a new story in the memory of your family. It will no longer be remembered as a line marked by traumas, but as a story where my hand interrupted the darkness and raised an unquenchable light. Those who hear about your descendants will know that a change was manifested there, a healing that has no human explanation, only the intervention of my power. Every episode of pain your ancestors lived and that was imprinted on family stories is now turned into a testimony that proclaims my greatness. I take what is broken and turn it into a trophy of glory. Nothing will be wasted, because even what seemed to be a cursed memory will now become a seed of faith for those who come. I heal the memory of your house, not erasing the history but redeeming it. Because I do not erase what was lived, I transform it. What hurt stops hurting, what accused stops accusing, what weighed down stops weighing. Now each memory will be a monument to my faithfulness. I raise in your descendants memories of gratitude, memories of restored covenants, memories of encounters with me. Where once memories served to bring fear, now it will serve to bring confidence. I establish a legacy in which the future generations will remember not the ruins, but the glorious reconstructions I made. Your story will no longer be marked by what was impossible, but by what I made possible. In your family there will be stories that say, there were chains but they were broken, there were diseases but they were healed, There were tears, but they were transformed into joy. Those stories will be remembered from generation to generation, and will become an inheritance of faith. I release upon you the restoration of collective memories, because I not only heal your mind, but the memory of your name, the memory of your family tree. Each branch now receives the breath of my spirit that cleanses, renews, and strengthens. Many remembered your family as a place of pain, of failure, of division. But from today they will be remembered as a restored people. I decide to rewrite what was thought impossible to change. In the darkest places, I make the brightest light shine. I establish that the stories of defeat will not be repeated again. The echo of the past is silenced, and a new sound is ignited, that of restoration, that of victory, that of glory. And just as a fresh river runs through arid lands, my spirit runs through each memory and turns it into fertile ground where the new will flourish. The memories of pain will stop chasing your loved ones. I close the doors to the ghosts of the past. No one else will remain a prisoner of toxic memories. Today I proclaim that the family history rises healed, restored, and glorious. In the days to come, when the past of your family is spoken of, there will be no shame nor fear. There will be gratitude and proclamation of my power. Because I have intervened in the depths, and I have healed what seemed untouchable. I restore the memories, and in doing so, I restore the generations. What was once a cause of silence will be a cause of celebration. What was a cause of chains will be a cause of songs. Because nothing that has happened is beyond my reach. Everything that has hurt is now transformed into glory. I declare over yours a clean, renewed, and strengthened memory. And I establish that each descendant will remember not the darkness, but the light. Not the wounds, but the healing. Not the defeats, but the victory. That will be the legacy of your house, and I myself seal it with my word. I am the God who heals the memory, and in you and in yours I will be glorified from generation to generation. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. John 8 verse 36. I have come to interrupt the hidden patterns that have ruled in your house for years. Many of those cycles were not visible at first glance, yet their shadow repeated in every generation. Today I announce that my power enters the depths to dismantle what once seemed impossible to break. What was hidden beneath the surface of family history is now exposed to my light and loses all power over you and yours. The pain that seemed inevitable and was passed from parents to children stops now. I break the sequence that kept your family's hope captive. The crooked paths that seem to repeat again and again in your lineage are straightened by my intervention. What appeared to be a destiny written by darkness is now turned into a new beginning written by my hand. There is no hidden covenant, no inheritance of curse, no voice buried in the memory of your blood that can resist my authority. Every invisible chain that operated in secret breaks at the sound of my word. I close the doors that were open to pain and open gates of life, blessing, and fullness. What was hidden beneath prolonged silence, beneath habits that seemed normal but were chains, is torn down today. I will not allow shadows to continue rising as an inheritance upon your generations. I declare freedom in the root and purity in the seed of your descendants. The ruin that repeated in business, marriages, and dreams is now interrupted. What seemed to fail over and over will now flourish. I uproot the seed of stagnation. No cycle of defeat will continue to manifest. Every bondage that seemed inevitable disintegrates before my glory. I have decided to illuminate the areas of your history that remained in darkness. Where no one could see, I enter with brilliance. There, where the hidden became custom, transformation now takes place. I declare that what was concealed in your family line loses its power and becomes fertile ground where my promise will sprout. Cycles of fear, sickness, financial ruin, divisions, and betrayals are broken now. There will be no more repetitions of the same among those who come after you. I put an end to the patterns that marked your name with shame. From now on there will be a new reference: blessing, multiplication, unity, and purpose. I declare that the invisible ties which kept your relatives bound are undone by my fire. No matter how long those cycles remained active, none are eternal before my power. Today I cut them off at the root and plant new seeds of fullness. Those in your family who were born believing they were destined for pain will see that no curse can withstand the force of my victory. Your descendants will no longer have to fight with the ghosts of the past, for those ghosts have been defeated and expelled from the memory of your lineage. The secrets that were kept and served as doors to ruin will have no more dominion. I expose them not to bring shame but to bring freedom. Every hidden truth that kept your house in silence is now redeemed by my word, and that silence becomes a proclamation of glory. I break cycles of loneliness, violence, rejection, and constant loss. I break patterns of diseases that repeated from generation to generation. I break the chains of division that shattered entire families. Everything that seemed impossible to stop is stopped now by my decree. Today I establish a new cycle, a circle of endless blessing. Where there were once repeated falls, there will now be repeated victories. Where there were repeated defeats, there will now be repeated miracles. What once was an endless chain of pain will now become an unstoppable current of joy. I declare that your household will be known for the radical transformation it experienced, not for what was repeated in the past, but for what I have established in the present. You will leave behind tales of ruin and take up testimonies of resurrection. The oppression that seemed a natural part of your inheritance is uprooted. I redraw your family story with my colors of restoration. There will no longer be crooked lines of pain but clear paths of promise. Where there were cycles of lovelessness, faithfulness will bloom. Where there were repetitions of infidelity and deceit, trust will be established. Where there was ruin, abundance will rise. Where there was premature death, there will be long days of life. The hidden cycles that kept your inheritance bound break like rusted chains before my fire. I declare your family tree renewed and every branch flourishing. There will no longer be dry branches casting shadows of pain, but living branches bearing abundant fruit. Today I bring to light all that moved in secret. Nothing will remain hidden before my eyes, for my purpose is to bring redemption to every space. Where once there was shame for what was repeated in silence, now there will be honor. Where there was fear to speak of what happened, now there will be freedom to tell what I have transformed. I correct the patterns that had become normalized. What once seemed part of your family's identity is undone, and in its place I establish a new name, restoration. That will be the emblem of your family. That will be the testimony left for your descendants. Today I proclaim that the hidden cycles will never return. They will have no strength to rise again, for I have buried them beneath the victory of my word. In place of hidden cycles, there will be visible rivers of blessing. In place of chains, there will be crowns. In place of shadows, there will be radiant light. Your family will be a beacon showing that what once repeated has been transformed. Those who look will say, "Here, something changed beyond explanation." And that change will be the sign of my power acting in secret and manifesting in the visible. Future generations will not inherit the burden of the past. They will not repeat what was your pain. They will inherit the blessing of what I have established today. I write a new story, free from hidden cycles, full of grace, justice, and glory. The victory has already been decreed. The invisible walls have already fallen. The repeated patterns have already been canceled. And in their place, I raise firm pillars of eternal blessing. I have come to break what was hidden and to establish what is new. And from this day forth, your name will be remembered not for the chains that marked it, but for the open gates of glory that I have raised for you and for yours. He will turn the hearts of the parents to their children, and the hearts of the children to their parents. Malachi 4 verse 6. Today I declare that the walls that divided your generations are falling. The invisible barriers that created separation, misunderstanding, and distance between parents and descendants collapse under the weight of my authority. I do not allow the fracture of bonds to continue. I tear down every boundary that time, pain, and mistakes have built. Many in your family grew up isolated from the love they needed, believing that distance was a normal part of life. Others carried silence, unresolved anger, and inherited wounds. Those walls were built brick by brick, sometimes with pride, sometimes with fear, sometimes with indifference. Today, each one of them cracks until it disappears. I restore the lost connection. I re-establish the unity that was broken by offenses passed down as a legacy. What became a chain of cold hearts, I now ignite with the fire of my reconciliation. Where generations could no longer look at each other with respect, A bridge of honor and understanding now blooms. I declare that the barriers that blocked the flow of blessing from parents to children are removed. I tear down the walls that raised distrust, prolonged silences, and hurtful words that created unbridgeable distances. Today I announce that communication is purified, understanding opens, and honor is restored. Every time a generation repeated the failures of the previous one, giving nothing but pain, I interrupt that cycle and open a new path. What was once inherited as a burden is replaced by a heritage of blessing. The parents who did not know how to give affection will now be able to express tenderness. The children who did not know how to honor will now rise with respect. The walls of indifference fall to dust. There will no longer be divided hearts but united families. The bridge of my love connects generations, and what was broken is restored with greater strength. No one will ever again raise walls between what I have joined. Your home will be known for the restoration of bonds. Where there was separation, there will be unity. Where there was resentment, there will be forgiveness. Where there was pride, there will be humility. Where there was fear, there will be trust. I choose to unite what wounds divided. The walls that kept entire generations apart are reduced to rubble. I tear them down so your descendants can walk freely toward a clean inheritance. The stories that once spoke of absent parents and wounded children will be replaced by testimonies of reconciliation. Your family name will now carry the mark of restoration. It will no longer be remembered for division but for the glorious unity I have unleashed. I restore the line of blessing that could not flow because walls stood in the way. Those invisible barriers that cut off the stream of love and honor have no place anymore. The river of my restoration flows without hindrance, bringing life to every generation. I declare that the elders will once again embrace the young with pride, and the young will look upon the elders with respect. Contempt becomes honor, distance becomes closeness, and silence becomes dialogue. My power manifests in every gesture of unity. No wall will remain standing. No barrier will prevent the generations from recognizing one another as part of the same design. The time of separations has ended. The time of reconciliation has begun. I raise families capable of rebuilding trust. I equip hearts to speak with sincerity and tenderness. I awaken eyes that seek one another without fear. What seemed impossible to heal between parents and children is restored with glory. The walls of shame that prevented the younger ones from freely receiving the legacy of their elders vanish. The past will no longer be remembered with pain but as evidence of my transforming power. I raise new generations that will no longer walk under the weight of emotional distances. They will be generations free to love, to forgive, to honor, and to build together. The walls fall, the bridges rise, life flows. Even the harsh words spoken in anger that built boundaries lose their power. I replace every verbal wound with words of blessing. Where there were insults, there will be praise. Where there was criticism, there will be affirmation. Where there was rejection, there will be acceptance. I declare that love between generations will not be forced but natural. It will not be superficial but deep. It will not be temporary but permanent. My restoration is not fleeting, it is everlasting. Families who for years could not sit together will now gather in peace. Houses where doors were locked will open. Those who stopped speaking will converse again. Those who rejected each other will embrace once more. I remove all hidden enmity among generations. I cancel rivalries, envy, comparisons, and competition that separated parents from children, grandparents from grandchildren, siblings from siblings. None of that will prevail. My decree establishes unbreakable unity. What seemed an irreparable fracture becomes a testimony of my power. Where counselors said, "There is no solution," I declare healing. Where it was believed that distance would last forever, I establish closeness. Where the wall seemed indestructible, now it turns to dust beneath my feet. From now on, your generations will walk together. There will be no more distances marked by the errors of the past. There will be a shared walk, a shared inheritance, a united vision. I establish that reconciliation will reign in your home. Every conversation will be marked by my grace. Every relationship will be sustained by my love. Every bond will be protected by my glory. The walls no longer exist. They have been torn down by my power. What once divided no longer divides. What once separated no longer separates. What once blocked the flow of blessing no longer stands. From this day forward, your family will be a beacon of unity to many. Those who see what I have done will say, if it was possible there, it will be possible here. Your home will become a living testimony of reconciliation and restoration. No wall will rise again. The rubble of what was torn down will serve as the foundation for what I now build. What once divided will become the base for the glory of what now flourishes. This is my decree. I tear down walls between generations, I restore lost unity, and I establish a new story of reconciliation in your home. This act will be remembered not as a simple change but as the glorious day when the impossible became possible by my hand. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement on the altar for your souls, for it is the blood that makes atonement for a person. Leviticus 17 verse 11. From the deepest part of your history, I have seen how the blood running through your family has carried memories, wounds, and marks that seemed impossible to erase. Today I declare that my power descends upon that inheritance that once seemed contaminated, and I cleanse it with a purity that no force of evil can resist. Your lineage will no longer be a slave to sickness, repeated patterns, or generational pain. Today I pour upon your blood a current of restoration that breaks invisible bonds and opens a new spring of life. I have seen every tear shed in silence by those who came before you. I know the diseases that afflicted their bodies, the fears that paralyzed them, the secrets that were never spoken. But I come with authority to transform what seemed written in the blood. If before it flowed with memories of defeat, now it will flow with testimonies of victory. If before it carried shame, now it will carry dignity. If before there were chains of addiction or violence, now there will be freedom transmitted as an eternal legacy. Your blood will no longer be a reminder of yesterday's pain. It will be a sign of my glorious intervention. When your generation is seen, the inheritance of failure will no longer be remembered, but the miraculous work that lifted the fallen and restored the broken. I stretch out my hand upon the very root of your being and infuse it with an anointing that neither corrupts nor fades. Even the diagnoses that once seemed final will be erased by my word. I declare over you that you will not be a slave to the diseases that passed from grandparents to parents, from parents to children. I interrupt that course and write a new code of life within you. A complete generation will rise declaring, the past was healed, the blood was transformed, and what seemed an inheritance of pain became a fountain of glory. Just as blood silently speaks within every body, now your blood will speak of redemption. Doctors may see changes, but what will truly happen is an invisible miracle that I establish. Where the memory of your family tree once shouted failure, it will now shout hope. Where fear once ran, peace will flow. Do not fear what people have said about your biological story. I am the one who rewrites the script of your destiny. Today I place my fire in your veins to burn the seeds of darkness that tried to repeat themselves generation after generation. Today I seal your life with mine, and I declare that every step you take will proclaim that nothing can resist my healing power. Listen, the diseases that marked your grandparents will not mark your grandchildren. The mistakes that seemed engraved in the flesh will be completely erased. Today I make a definitive cut with the hidden curses in the blood and give you a source that will never run dry. Your inheritance will no longer be a burden, it will be a banner lifted in victory. You will see the youngest in your home walk in fullness and health. And you will see the oldest among you experience relief, renewal, and strength. For I do not come to heal only what is new, I come to restore what seemed impossible to repair. I raise a wall of fire around your descendants. No curse that traveled through generations will touch what I have set apart for myself. The cycles of pain will no longer repeat. My word becomes a heavenly vaccine that protects those who come after you. And every new birth in your family will be a proclamation that the blood was redeemed by my eternal power. I bring reconciliation even to biological memories. If your lineage has seen bloodshed through violence, wars, or tragedy, I cleanse those marks that remain through time. There will no longer be cries of vengeance in the memory of your story, but a cry of mercy that opens the heavens in favor of your descendants. I touch every root of fear transmitted in secret, the silences that weighed on the family atmosphere, the guilt that was never confessed, the burdens passed down from generation to generation. Today I dissolve them in the fire of my presence. They will no longer speak, they will no longer weigh upon you. What once seemed inevitable will now be unthinkable. Where they said your whole family was marked by a destiny of scarcity or sickness, I appear with my outstretched hand and break those decrees. My voice is stronger than any repeated story. I pour over your blood a life that shines beyond the human. I know you have looked back and thought you were a slave to that endless chain. But today I tell you, you are no longer dragged by what others did before you. You are now the breaking point, the place where the old ends and the new begins. And what flows after you will carry the seal of my restoration. Let a new generation rise within you, marked by integrity. May your children and your children's children live free from those shadows. May each of them walk under an open heaven, for the blood that sustains them no longer speaks of condemnation but of freedom. I bless your blood with my eternity. I fill it with abundant life and make it a testimony that my work is not limited to healing surface wounds. I go to the root, to the invisible, to what seemed untouchable, and there I establish my victory. Your blood will be a song proclaiming to the heavens. The impossible was conquered, darkness was defeated, glory became our inheritance. Keep this word as an eternal seal. Every time you doubt, remember, what flows within you is no longer mere memory of flesh and bone. It is restored life, living testimony, proclamation that the chains were destroyed and a new lineage in the blood began. And when others look at your family, they will no longer speak of the painful past. They will see the present filled with healing and the future full of hope. For I, with a mighty hand, have made your blood a clean river that will never stop flowing. And their descendants shall be known among the nations, and their offspring among the peoples. All who see them shall acknowledge that they are a people the Lord has blessed. Isaiah 61 verse 9. From the beginning, I have prepared an awakening that will reach not only your life but also those who will come after you. Today I declare that a new time opens in which future generations will be raised with a strength that will not fade. The seeds that seemed asleep in the heart of your family will sprout with abundant fruit, and what was once dry will bloom with splendor. I raise generations that will live under open heavens, marked by purpose and guided by my favor. For a long time, it was thought that old patterns would dictate the destiny of your children and grandchildren. Many repeated that nothing would change, that what was written in history would be eternal. But my voice breaks in to establish a different decree. Today I set a line of life that breaks with the old and opens completely new paths. The root of the curse dries up, and in its place, I plant a tree of righteousness that will bring shade and fruit to those who have not yet been born. You will see generations as firm as pillars, unshakable in the face of adversity. They will not be known for the failures of their ancestors but for the excellence of my work in them. Every child born in your home will carry my blessing written within. Every young person who rises will be an example of my restoring power. Every renewed elder will be a living testimony that nothing is lost when I intervene. I raise new generations that will not inherit the chains of fear but the freedom of my spirit. The cries of defeat will no longer be repeated but replaced with songs of victory that will fill homes. And every home in your family will be an altar where the greatness of my intervention is celebrated. What was broken in the communication between parents and children, I restore. The walls that divided families, I tear down. Where there was distance, I bring closeness. Where there was abandonment, I establish faithfulness. I not only heal the wounds of the past but design a solid present so that the future may be built in peace. The new generations I raise will walk with clear vision. They will not be trapped by the confusion that entangled their parents. They will not sink into the despair that ruled in past times. I ignite a torch that will illuminate their path, and with that light, roads that once seemed closed will open. Every step they take will expand my purpose. Every decision will be a seed of blessing. I raise young people who will not carry inherited guilt but will live in full freedom. You will see how their minds are renewed, how their emotions are healed, how their bodies are strengthened. And when they face trials, they will not repeat the mistakes of the past but will walk in my wisdom. I declare that what was once transmitted as a curse will be replaced by a glorious inheritance. Your descendants will not inherit ruins, they will inherit victories. They will not receive defeats, they will receive triumphs. They will not cling to traumas, they will cling to promises. They will be the bearers of a new story that will speak of my power throughout the centuries. Do not be surprised when you see talents arise that were never before present in your family. I deposit gifts in the smallest ones and in those whom many consider incapable. I will awaken dormant abilities, open opportunities in unexpected places, and make your descendants a people who amaze those around them. You will see grandchildren rise with creativity that blesses multitudes. You will see children walk in righteousness and mark their generation. You will see entire families restored, walking together without division, carrying a shared purpose. For what I raise is not fragile or temporary, it is firm and eternal. There will be no room for shame in your family name. What others associated with failure will now be associated with my glory. The name of your family will be remembered not for what it lost but for what it gained in my presence. From your house will come testimonies that inspire nations, and your lineage will be remembered as an example of total transformation. I raise generations that will heal the memories of those who were broken. I raise prophetic voices that will proclaim a new time. I raise hands that will serve with generosity and hearts that will love without fear. Every member of your family will be an instrument in my hands to extend my light upon the earth. The pain that was once inherited will no longer be transmitted. I cut it off with my authority, and in its place I give an inheritance of joy that multiplies. What was once a burden will now be a gift. What was once a cause for tears will now be a reason for praise. Your descendants will be known as generations of peace, generations of honor, generations that shine in the midst of darkness. I declare that every door closed in the past will be opened for your children and your children's children. What was denied to your ancestors will be granted to your descendants. You will see what once seemed impossible come to pass in them, for I myself will ensure that they walk in fullness. I raise new generations with clear identity. They will not be confused about who they are or where they are going. They will not live under the weight of comparisons or the shadow of failures. They will have confidence because they are rooted in my truth. And from that certainty will spring an unshakable trust. Do not think that the scars of yesterday will hinder what I am doing. Even those scars will become testimonies, signs that my power surpasses all human limits. And your descendants will tell how their ancestors lived through difficult times, but in the midst of those times, I raised a new story. Your family will be like a field where I plant abundant seed. Every generation that follows will be like fresh, sweet, life-filled fruit. And that fruit will feed others, for they will not only be blessed but become a blessing. Thus I declare that your generations will walk in honor, in righteousness and joy. They will be restored in memory and in the present. And when people speak of your family, they will say, they are a living example of what God does when He decides to raise something new. There will be no limit to what I will do in your descendants. No wall will stop them. No chain will bind them. I raise new generations and sustain them with my eternal power. Keep this word, for it will be the seal that marks your story. What was once broken is now restored. What once faded now shines. And what once seemed finished now becomes the glorious beginning of generations that will honor my name forever. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147 verse 3. I have witnessed the silences that shaped your story and that of your family. I know of the tears never shed in public, of the sighs stifled at night, of the words kept in the chest because there was no room to speak them. Today I declare that the power of my presence descends upon every unspoken pain, and I heal it with a glory that transcends generations. The secrets that weighed upon your ancestors, the memories never spoken aloud but that shaped decisions, will no longer be chains dragging your descendants. What was hidden in the shadows I now illuminate with my light. What was kept quiet out of fear, shame, or guilt now receives a balm that dissolves its strength. I enter the deepest places of family memory and remove the poison that was silently transmitted. Many in your story remained silent out of fear of rejection. Others hid their wounds because they thought no one would understand. Others chose to silence their pain so as not to burden those they loved. But that silence was not ignored by me. I heard it, I attended to it, and now I transform it. Today I declare that invisible tears will become springs of joy flowing from one generation to another. Your family will no longer live under the shadow of unspoken pain. Those who come after you will not carry memories that do not belong to them. I make a definitive cut with the oppressive inheritance of silence and establish a time of freedom. There will be conversations that once seemed impossible. There will be reconciliations that once were unimaginable. What was hidden will be set in order, and what was bound will be released by my power. I heal the pain of fathers who did not know how to express love but felt it deeply. I heal the sorrow of mothers who hid their suffering so their children would not fall apart. I heal the guilt buried in the memories of grandparents, guilt never confessed but which influenced everything that followed. That weight breaks today. That burden is no longer transmitted. That invisible chain is completely destroyed. I raise in your family a spirit of truth that sets free. Where there was fear to speak, there will be courage. Where there was imposed silence, there will be prophetic voice. Where there was shame, there will be honor. And each generation will learn that freedom is not found in silence but in allowing me to heal what once seemed impossible to heal. I have heard the words that were never spoken. Words of forgiveness trapped in the hearts of your ancestors. Words of reconciliation left unsaid because life ended too soon. Words of love that remain stored in memory. I gather those unspoken words and turn them into fruits of blessing for your descendants. The young in your household will not have to carry the weight of untold stories. I will cleanse the atmosphere, heal the spaces poisoned by what was never spoken. I will give them peace in their souls, clarity in their minds, and lightness in their hearts. They will not repeat the pattern of silence that wounds, but will learn to heal from the root. Today I release over your family a time in which dialogue will restore. Parents and children will talk without fear. Grandparents will be heard and honored. Grandchildren will rise in freedom without fear of being judged. For I myself am placing a new language in your home, a language of truth, love, and healing. Unspoken pain is not stronger than my power. I uproot it, burn it with the fire of my presence, and transform it into testimony. What once oppressed will now be cause for worship. And when my work is complete, all will recognize that peace has flowed like a river over your family. Do not think that what was never said will remain forever hidden. I reveal what is necessary to heal and guard what is not needed to carry. What matters is that the weight will continue no more. I take what was silent and transform it into seed of joy. Thus your family will walk light, free, and full of hope. From the silences of your ancestors will rise a new song. From what was kept quiet in pain, I will raise words of life. Where there was fear to speak, I will raise strong voices proclaiming truth. And that truth will not be harsh or condemning, it will be freeing. For I did not come to accuse, I came to restore. I raise generations unafraid to be vulnerable. I raise families able to share their story without shame. I raise homes where unspoken pain becomes shared healing. And when others hear what I have done, they will know that only my power can transform what seemed impossible. The memories of guilt transmitted in silence are erased. The unconfessed wounds are healed. The secrets that corrupted the atmosphere dissolve in my presence. And in their place, I plant trust, transparency, and love. What was hidden ceases to be shadow and becomes seed of glory. Thus I declare that your family will walk in freedom of expression, inner peace, and healthy relationships. Children will grow without fear of silencing their feelings. Youth will be heard without judgment. Adults will learn to share the depths of their hearts without fear. And the elders will be able to release what they carried for years without fear of rejection. What your family never spoke will now be testimony of my power. For the pain silenced for generations will become the ground where I plant peace and joy. And every word that arises from this day forward will be a word that builds, that uplifts, that frees. I seal with my eternal love the end of harmful silence. I declare that never again will unspoken pain define your story. For I have entered the deepest part of that memory and healed it with my mighty hand. Keep this word in your heart and pass it to yours. Silence no longer rules, healing now flows. And from your family will rise a glorious testimony showing that the deepest pain was transformed into victory. I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, the cankerworm, the caterpillar, and the palmerworm, my great army which I sent among you. Joel 2 verse 25. Today I declare over you the time of restitution. That which seemed torn from your story, what faded away amid losses and silence, returns to your life by the power of my word. You are not destined to walk with empty hands, for everything that was broken in your family's memory, in the root of your history, realigns under my creative power. Many have believed that the mistakes of their ancestors created an inheritance beyond redemption, but today I raise a proclamation that breaks those chains. The inheritance once thought cursed is now covered with my glory. What was buried beneath the dust of time, what scattered through conflict, debt, abandonment, or failure, I now gather at a new table for the generations to enjoy in fullness. I lift up a purified memory where there will be no shame associated with the past, but restored honor. What was once a cause of pain will now become a testimony of victory. I bring to the surface talents that were extinguished, projects that never came to pass, and I place them in the hands of those ready to shine in this appointed time. Nothing that belongs to me is lost in the void. Even the tears shed in silence are part of a river that flows into abundance. I take those hidden sighs and transform them into seeds that now bear eternal fruit. There is no inheritance that time can destroy when I decide to restore it. I heal family roots, unresolved memories, and the voices that spoke failure. I silence the decrees of defeat and open a new decree in your favor. The old record, written with accusations, is annulled. In its place appears a living document filled with unbreakable promises that will sustain you in every step. I tell you, you will not fear losing what you receive, for it will not be the result of chance but of my covenant. What I now give does not decay, fade, or wear out with time. It is incorruptible inheritance, kept in my hands and released at the exact moment for you and your descendants. The previous generations mourned what was lost, but the new generations will celebrate what I have restored. They will no longer walk under the weight of what was missing, but in the fullness of what I have released. They will see my wonders and proclaim that the treasure once hidden has been found. I bring reconciliation where there was division. I restore disputed lands, fragmented memories, and return the peace that once seemed unreachable. Where there was bitterness among brothers, there will be embraces. Where there were ancient enmities, unity will bloom. Thus rises a new heritage of reconciliation and victory. Today I stretch out my hand over what the enemy tried to steal. I stand as the guarantor of your story and declare that your inheritance will not be trampled. I will multiply it so greatly that what you receive will surpass what was lost. The treasure once thought lost will be found in unexpected places. I will open doors that were sealed and cause resources to come from sources you never imagined. The wells that were covered are reopened, and the fresh water of my provision flows without ceasing. I restore not only material goods but also the dignity, worth, and honor of your family. The family name that was once a cause of mockery will become a symbol of blessing. Your descendants will walk with their heads held high, for my seal will rest upon them. To you I give the key to break the narrative of failure. With your hands you will open chapters never before written and set the course for those who come after you. The old pages will not be erased, but they will be redeemed with a new ending. I myself bring justice where injustice once prevailed. Those who took advantage of your vulnerability will see how I return what was stolen. No one will be able to withstand the weight of my decree when I say, "Return what you have taken." I will not allow your hands to remain empty, for my purpose is not sustained by loss but by abundance. I will fill your barns with provision, your fields with fruit, and your house with songs. Where there was mourning, there will now be dancing. Where there was lack, there will now be overflowing provision. Dreams that seemed extinguished are revived. I restore desires dimmed by despair. I lift from the dust projects that seemed impossible and turn them into tangible realities. Your story will not end with what you lost, but with what I restore. Even the wounds that went unnamed in your family, those that lingered in silence, receive my healing touch today. What was unspoken, what was stored in the corners of memory, is illuminated by my presence and transformed into strength. Hear my declaration: your inheritance is not dead, it lives within my plans. I raise in you the authority to reclaim what seemed lost. I open the heavens over your house and pour out abundance. I declare that future generations will rejoice in what you have received today. The dry fields will bloom again, the trees that bore no fruit will be filled with life. The ground of your family will no longer be barren but fertile. Where ruins once stood, strongholds will rise. The fallen walls will be rebuilt with greater glory. I bring intergenerational justice. What your parents could not achieve, you will see. What your grandparents did not reach, your children will live. Not because they were less, but because I have reserved for this time the fullness of my inheritance. I declare that the memory of your household will no longer be tied to loss but to miracles. The story of your lineage will be told as a testimony of restoration. And when others hear what I have done for you, they will know that I am faithful to return far beyond what was lost. Nothing will remain outside my restitution. Even the promises forgotten deep within you, I bring them back. I dust them off, illuminate them, and fulfill them at the perfect moment. Rejoice, for what comes is greater than what was gone. Celebrate, for what seemed impossible to recover returns multiplied. Sing, for what was broken becomes whole again. Today I establish a new decree over your inheritance. It will no longer be touched by the enemy. I guard it, strengthen it, and multiply it. And when you see the fruit of what I restore, you will know that I never forgot your story. I am the one who writes the final chapter, and that chapter is filled with restitution, glory, and abundance. Thus shall your inheritance be, restored, multiplied, and eternal. The ones who sowed with tears will reap with joy. Psalm 126 verse 5. The weeping that flowed through your story has not been ignored or forgotten. Every tear that fell in silence has been gathered in my hands and transformed into a seed of a glorious future. Nothing your family went through, nor the sadness that seemed to mark generations, will remain barren. Today I declare that every hidden pain becomes an eternal legacy that will bring honor, victory, and multiplication. The laments of your ancestors were not in vain. Even those nights when despair seemed to win, I recorded them in my books to give them an eternal purpose. What was believed to be loss is now transformed into an inheritance of wisdom and strength. What seemed like the end now reveals itself as the beginning of a harvest that others will enjoy. I raise a new foundation in your story. Past suffering becomes teaching for those who come after you. It will not be marked as defeat but as a seed that grows in resilience. Yesterday's pain will become inspiration, the breaking will turn into momentum, and the cry of your past generations will become a song of triumph for those to come. I do not allow tears to fall to the ground without bearing fruit. Every hidden sigh of pain, every cry shed in private, now rises as a living testimony that I can turn affliction into blessing. Just as life springs from the seed that dies, so from pain that seemed barren, an abundant harvest now emerges. I declare that what was once remembered as trauma will now be told as a testimony of restoration. The dark memories of your family are illuminated under my glory. They will no longer speak of ruin, but of victory. The tears of past generations will not be erased. They will become a spring that refreshes those who walk today. To those who once wept for what was taken away, I now give a reward that does not fade. I multiply in the descendants what was thought lost in the parents. I open new paths where there were walls. I restore honor where there was shame. And I declare that from your house will flow a legacy that no wound can extinguish. I extend my hand over family memories, over unhealed wounds, and over the emptiness that seemed impossible to fill. I fill them with purpose and transform them into a solid foundation. No one will be able to uproot the legacy born from what once seemed loss. Pain will not have the last word. The past will not be written with the ink of defeat. Today I write upon your story with strokes of redemption and hope. What your generations wept for will become strength for the ones to come. No tear will be wasted, no cry will go unanswered. I announce that the memory of your family will be healed. It will no longer be told as a line of failures but as a narrative of resurrection. The voices that once broke in lament will be remembered as those that opened the way to a glorious future. Their tears were the sowing, your generation will see the harvest. Inherited shame dissolves under my power. Past guilt is covered by grace. The weeping that once had no comfort turns into a song of victory. I declare that what once seemed an unbearable weight now becomes an impulse toward the new. No pain experienced will be wasted. Everything your family endured will serve as testimony to open doors for others. I transform brokenness into authority, wounds into wisdom, emptiness into abundance. Thus your story becomes a legacy that will guide future generations. The descendants who once heard tales of sorrow will now hear stories of restoration. The tears of yesterday will water the faith of tomorrow. What once seemed a line of losses will be interrupted by my mighty hand and transformed into a line of miracles. I declare that the legacy you receive is not stained by pain but redeemed by my glory. Your children will not repeat the laments of the past but will raise songs of gratitude. Your grandchildren will not inherit memories of ruin but fulfilled promises. Your family will not be remembered for the tears shed but for the glorious fruit that grew from them. The pain that was never expressed, the silence that hid wounds, becomes a river of healing. Today I release upon you and yours the grace to turn those silences into living words that inspire others. The broken voice of the past becomes an echo of hope for those who come behind. I raise an altar of restoration in your story. That altar is not built with stones of defeat but with tears transformed into precious pearls. There it will be remembered that nothing was lost, that everything was redeemed, that every tear became a seed of glory. Even the darkest moments of your family become keys to open doors of blessing. The stories that once brought pain will now be testimonies that strengthen others. I will not deny the tears that existed, but I transform them into an eternal legacy. I turn mourning into dancing. I transform memories of ruin into celebrations of abundance. And I declare that from the most bitter will flow sweetness. Thus, a new testimony will rise in your house, a story of redemption that will impact all around you. From your lineage will arise bearers of hope. They will be the ones who tell how tears were turned into victory. And they will proclaim with conviction, what our family once wept for has become a glorious inheritance. There will be no useless tears in your story. Every tear was counted, every sigh recorded, every silence written down. And now all of it becomes the seed of a legacy that no one can erase. I open a new spring over you. From that spring will drink those who once knew thirst. The water that flows from the tears of your past generations becomes fresh, pure, and abundant. It will bring life to all who draw near to drink from your testimony. Rejoice, for your story does not end in weeping but in legacy. Celebrate, for what once seemed meaningless now becomes eternal treasure. I declare that the tears sown in your house become fruit that will not wither, inheritance that will not fade, victory that will not be erased. Today I establish a new decree over you. Your tears are transformed into legacy. And that legacy will be remembered as a sign that nothing, absolutely nothing, can remain unredeemed in my hands. Thus shall your inheritance be, fruit born of transformed pain, testimony of eternal glory, incorruptible legacy passed from generation to generation. I will establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living being that is with you. Genesis 9 verses 9 to 10. From the beginning I have raised my voice to declare that my covenant cannot be broken, that my faithfulness does not expire, and that my promises do not fade with the passing of years. What I began with the fathers, I confirm in the children and establish in the grandchildren. My covenant is neither weak nor vulnerable. It stands upon the rock of my unchanging word. Therefore, today I speak to your family history and declare that your descendants will remain under the protection of my eternal covenant. Past generations faced trials. Some carried guilt, others stumbled along crooked paths, but I did not allow the thread of my covenant to be broken. Even when men failed, I kept the promise alive. Even amid seasons of silence and pain, my word remained active, waiting for the moment to manifest its power. And today is that moment. The instant I proclaim that your family will walk under the perpetual covering of my covenant. The chains that burdened your ancestors will not have dominion over your descendants. The covenant I establish is stronger than any curse, firmer than any mistake, and mightier than inherited pain. Under my covering, every fracture becomes restoration, and every wound a sign of victory. The story of your family is rewritten in the ink of an eternal commitment that will never be broken. I declare that future generations will not be marked by the fear of repeating what happened before, but by the assurance of walking under a glorious covering. My words are not nullified by human weakness, for they are upheld by my own strength. Where there was failure, my covenant establishes victory. Where there was loss, my alliance proclaims restitution. Where there was ruin, my promises pave the way to abundance. I have raised a banner over your house. That banner proclaims, "Here dwells a people under an eternal covenant." It will not be torn down by storms nor consumed by the fire of trials. Every generation that rises will see that banner and know they do not walk without direction, but under an alliance that precedes and covers them. What I sow in your life today will not remain only with you. The covenant I renew reaches your children, the children of your children, and all who come after. My word flows like a river that does not stop, moving through generations. What seemed broken becomes living inheritance. What seemed lost becomes a memory of restoration. Your family will not be known for the wounds of the past, but for the testimony of living under my faithfulness. They will be remembered as those who walked firmly in the path of my promise, as those who were not carried away by darkness because my covenant upheld them. Even when others fall, your generations will stand, sustained by the strength of the eternal. Today I extend my hand and seal my covenant over your inheritance with fire. The pain that once marked them will be erased. Shame will be replaced with honor. Silence will become a proclamation of victory. I declare that the memory of your family will not remain trapped in shadows, but will be illuminated by the light of my covenant. Future generations will not have to beg for direction or purpose. They will grow under the certainty that my word guides them and my faithfulness covers them. Their steps will be marked by the path of victory that I open before them. Every decision they make will be supported by the power of my covenant, which knows no limits of time or space. To those who once wept in silence, I will give abundant joy. To those who suffered shame, I will give perpetual dignity. To those who lived in lack, I will open springs of provision. I do all this because I have decided to establish my covenant with your family, and nothing can prevent it. This covenant is a mantle that covers the wounds of yesterday and protects the future. Under that mantle there will be no fear, only trust. No ruin, only prosperity. No inherited sickness, only healing. Just as I seal the rainbow in the sky as a sign of my promise, I raise visible signs in your home so that you always remember you walk under my faithfulness. I turn the painful past into foundations of strength. Where there was fracture, I raise columns of glory. Where there was shame, I establish testimonies of honor. The eternal covenant I seal with your family is a beacon that will guide every generation to the full fulfillment of my purpose. Those born into your descendants will not be helpless or adrift. From the beginning, they will be covered by the inheritance of my word. They will be shaped under a covenant that connects them to victory and keeps them from ruin. There will be no room to repeat past mistakes, for my alliance opens a new path where every step is secured by my power. I declare that your inheritance will not stop at one generation but will be multiplied through many. Your descendants will bear as a sign the seal of restoration. When others look at their lives, they will see that they do not walk alone, but under an eternal covenant. That will be a testimony not only for your family but for many peoples who will recognize my faithfulness. The doors that the enemy tried to close in your family, I open with force. What was withheld for years is now released. Opportunities that seemed impossible become accessible under my promise. The covenant I establish breaks barriers and tears down the walls that once limited advancement. This covenant is not conditioned on the perfection of your lineage, but on the perfection of my word. Even when men fail, my faithfulness remains. Therefore, your family will live under the covering of the eternal, without fear of losing what I have already sealed. I raise a memorial over your story. That memorial will proclaim that the generations of your house are under a perpetual covenant. Every tear of your ancestors will be transformed into testimony. Every wound will be converted into a scar of victory. Every silence will be filled with proclamations of faith. The eternal covenant I declare over you today is like a river that never runs dry. No matter the season they face, there will always be flowing water. That river will bring life to every corner of your descendants and will testify that I have fulfilled what I promised. Thus I proclaim, the generations of your house will be under my eternal covenant. They will not walk alone, they will not be marked by ruin, they will not repeat the shame of the past. Their inheritance will be of victory, their memory will be of honor, and their destiny will be of glory. This is my decree, and my word stands firm forever. The latter glory of this house will be greater than the former, says the Lord of hosts, and I will give peace in this place. Haggai 2 verse 9. The time has come for the dark night of your family to end. The sun of a new day rises over your history, announcing that nothing will ever be the same again. The dawn of a new narrative has begun, and in it, there is no room for repeating mistakes, inherited shame, or wounds that for years seemed impossible to heal. Everything marked by ruin and brokenness yields to the radiant light of my glory. I have drawn a new beginning over your house. This beginning is not founded on the pain of yesterday but on the strength of my promise, renewed with each morning. The past will not dictate the course of your descendants, for I open a different horizon. What was once marked by tears will now be a testimony of joy. What once seemed an endless chain now transforms into a river of freedom flowing toward future generations. The dawn I release today over your family is irreversible. Just as the sunrise announces the coming of the sun and nothing can stop its light, so this new story cannot be canceled by darkness. The brightness that emerges today will dissipate every trace of shadow. The truth of my covenant will turn the weight of the past into a transformed memory. This new day rises with signs of life. Where there was barrenness, now there will be fruit. Where there was silence, now there will be song. Where there was fear, now there will be trust. I seal and archive the chapters written with ink of lament and open a new book where every page speaks of hope, abundance, and fullness. Your family's story does not end with inherited pain but with the victory I now establish. No curse can write the future because my word rises as a higher decree. The dawn of a new time manifests clearly, and hope shines brighter than any dark memory. I have made a mantle of light over your house. This mantle covers those yet to be born, those who walk today, and those who have departed leaving wounds behind. Under this covering, everything transforms. Memories that seemed like open wounds become scars of glory. Tales of ruin are now told as examples of overcoming. And the generations to come will learn that the power of my restoration surpasses all limits. The dawn is not just a change of season, it is a proclamation of destiny. Your family will walk under a different direction. The course will not be marked by repeated failure but by the multiplication of blessing. The new day I release will bring abundance in fruits, peace in memory, and honor in testimony. Today I proclaim that tears turn into songs, wounds transform into lessons, and what once seemed an impossible defeat will now be told as the seed of a miracle. Every generation will know for certain that darkness did not prevail, because the eternal dawn covered their history. What was once a silent curse is broken by the clarity of my glory. Hidden cycles that weighed on your lineage are undone. The sun of my justice illuminates corners where shame once lived. The memory of your family will no longer be trapped in chains, for the dawn opens free paths where all can walk with confidence. Today I declare that your descendants will inherit light, not shadows. They will receive fullness, not ruin. They will bear crowns of honor, not shame. In every generation, there will be witnesses that the dawn of a new story did not stop but continued shining ever brighter. The new time I release is like an endless horizon. The light that ignites today will not be extinguished with the passing of years, for it is sustained by my eternal faithfulness. Your house will be known as a beacon in the midst of darkness, and nations will see the transformation I have made in your family history. I raise over your house the proclamation that nothing will again be defined by the shadow of yesterday. Pain becomes strength, ruin becomes abundance, and sorrow becomes dance. Just as the dawn brings new color to creation, I tint every memory of your family with glory, so that when they remember, they feel not pain but gratitude. The grandchildren of your grandchildren will speak of this dawn. They will tell that there was a time when tears seemed endless, but a day came when the light dispersed all darkness. They will speak with certainty that the glory of the new overcame the inheritance of the old. And their testimony will be evidence that my power transcends generations. The past will not be erased, it will be redeemed. Every experience, even the most painful, will be used as a foundation to build a firm house. Your family will no longer be marked by brokenness but by restoration. Those who once asked why there was so much pain will now marvel at so much grace. This dawn comes filled with peace, a peace that does not depend on circumstances but becomes the very air your family breathes. A peace that heals memory, frees the heart, and establishes a secure future. This peace will be the mark of your inheritance and the seal that the new story has already begun. There will be no generation without fruit. Even those who seemed far from all purpose will be reached by the clarity of this new day. Every life will be touched, every heart transformed, and every step guided toward fullness. The dawn will leave no one out, for the light will cover all who bear your name and beyond. I have decreed that your family rise as a living testimony of restoration. Let others see in you what I can do with a story marked by pain. Let them recognize that where there seemed to be no way out, a powerful dawn arose, opening paths of life. Celebrate this day, for what begins today will have no end. The dawn that rises is not fleeting, it is eternal. And the eternal ensures that your family will walk under the clarity of my glory without turning back. Thus I conclude the promise. The dawn of a new family story is already established. Nothing will stop it, nothing will extinguish it, nothing will erase it. This is the sign that your descendants walk in victory, honor, and fullness. The night has ended. The light prevails. And the dawn of your house will be remembered forever as the glorious beginning of a story that will never be defeated.